Welcome to Arts in the City. I'm Tinabeth Pina, and today we're visiting the Brooklyn Museum. This summer will mark the 50th anniversary of the signing of the historic Civil Rights Act. And to commemorate this period, the Brooklyn Museum has launched an exhibit entitled Witness: Art and Civil Rights in the 60s. Laguerre-Wilkinson gave us a tour.
Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time.
Our goal was to really demonstrate how artists, and how many artists, sought to be activists in their work and who believed in cultural activism as a way to change the way the American public saw things, literally.
Notable artists like Norman Rockwell took risks, veering from scenes depicting one side of American life. After over 40 years at the Saturday Evening Post, Rockwell was fired because his work started to reflect the realities of integration in America. He eventually found a home at Look magazine, where his piece, New Kids in the Neighborhood, graced its cover.
You have these kids who have just moved in, these two young black kids, and then they're being examined by the resident white kids. And they're considering each other very carefully. And there are these little cues. The little black girl holds a white cat. There's a black dog in front of the white kids. They both have baseball mitts. They share something.
That's the common denominator.
And the fact that they hold the future as opposed to the person who's spying through the window, out there,
yeah.
who is probably a lot less flexible in terms of getting to know the new neighbors. People were experimenting with a lot of different approaches. We had pop art coming on the scene in '62, '63. Abstraction was still alive. There was a new push for realism. Assemblage was in the public eye again. There was a big MoMA show about assemblage in 1961. So we didn't want to be exclusive. We wanted to bring everyone in the mix, no matter how they were working.
So what we've got to see is that the things that are being done in such a creative manner by you will make Birmingham a better city for everybody.
This is Birmingham, 1964. Now, this is definitely more abstract, but yet it's so powerful. It's very dark.
Yes, it's sort of
violent looking, right?
It's almost like the collision of abstraction and reality in the form of the newspaper clipping that Whitten used at the center of this work. This is one of the many, many images of the conflicts in Birmingham in 1963.
That's right. You see the dog attacking the protester there.
Exactly. And he cut this out of a newspaper and put it beneath stocking mesh. And he did that knowing of W.E.B. Du Bois's description of the black being veiled and their identity never being permitted to really fully emerge. Indiana was one of the leading emerging pop artists at the time, and he did a lot of works that were very bold in their statements. He did this as part of a 4-painting series called The Confederacy, and he focused on states where there had been particularly egregious violence and would single out the city at the center of the works. Here's Selma. This stands as one of the boldest statements, and in the context of pop art, which overall was seen as utterly apolitical.
Sure, sure. And yet the quote that you have up here saying the situation in the South affects everyone. I can't wake up in the morning without becoming perhaps ill at the news that comes through. Yeah. Wrote that said this in 1966.
And it was all over the news and television, and people just had a harder and harder time pretending it wasn't there.
It wasn't happening.
Yeah, exactly.
The art in this exhibit also includes some memorable photographs from that era, like Moneta Sleet Jr.'s shot of the Selma to Montgomery March in 1965.
We knew there would be people who would come in here who didn't have a date in their heads in terms of historical record. And there would be people who'd marched. There would be people whose parents marched, and they knew it. We wanted to be relevant to both of those audiences and to the fact that this could be a place where those conversations could take place.
The exhibit, Witness, contains themes which encourage such conversations, like this painting by Barclay Hendricks in the Black is Beautiful section.
Talk about remaking the image of the African American woman. everyone associates that transformation with the Afro, with this new
It's
sort
a
of...
renaissance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's interesting is a lot of people ask us if this is Angela Davis, and I think it's because there's this equation of the empowered woman in this style wearing her activism again.
And her eyes, I mean, are so expressive. I mean, there's very much of a don't mess with me attitude.
Exactly.
But yet respect me.
And the title of the work is Lottie Mama, which refers to an empowered woman in a song by Nina Simone who's in control of her situations. Art is sort of pushed off to the side so often now in this country. And it was really believed to be a means of social change. And I think that there are many artists today who still believe that cultural activism is a viable form of affecting social change. And we're trying to get people to think about a little more deeply that this is not something new. It's something actually quite continuous and was vitally alive in the 1960s.
This exhibit of cultural activism will be displayed at the Brooklyn Museum through July. I'm Laguerre-Wilkinson for Arts in the City.
When it comes to popular music, the New York Pops is king, sharing the universal language of music with one and all, including me. I caught up with this amazing group to listen and learn. They say everyone's connected to the universal language of music, and that's never been more apparent than when it comes to the New York Pops.
I wake up every day and I think, literally, I pinch myself sometimes thinking, I get to do this for a living. It's just so much fun.
For the past 5 years, Stephen Reinecke has been conducting the New York Pops, the largest independent pops orchestra in the United States and the only professional symphonic orchestra in New York City specializing in popular music.
We keep alive the Great American Songbook. We do music from light classics, popular light classics, all the way to contemporary music of today, and everything in between. We'll do film music, we'll do Broadway, we'll do big band jazz, swing, we'll do Tchaikovsky and Mozart and Beethoven, and also the music of the Beatles. But it goes into Billy Joel and it goes into Bruce Springsteen and people like this as well.
And that's what makes the Pops unique, right?
Yeah, it makes the Pops really unique.
The New York Pops was founded in 1983 by musical icon Skitch Henderson to create a greater public awareness and appreciation of America's rich musical heritage through concerts and education programs.
Music of his era, music that was his life, that he wanted everybody to be able to enjoy and experience.
For me, he had this incredible depth of knowledge from his Hollywood years, from his years on The Tonight Show, but he brought to the table this incredible lifetime of experiences. It was really amazing.
Members of the 77-person orchestra acknowledge that it's not only Skitch's original concept that makes the Pops successful, but also the variety of musical styles that adds to their success.
Everybody has different experience, but we have to have that as a Pops orchestra. We have to be able to do jazz, we have to do Broadway, we have to do classical, and not everybody can do that.
We've played together as a unit so many times that even though we come from different backgrounds and maybe different fields of expertise, when we get together, you know that the person next to you, what they're going to do.
There have been hundreds of guest artists who have collaborated with the Pops over the past 31 years, including some bold-faced names.
Some years it's just a parade of stars. I mean, over the 31 years, we've had Liberace, we've had Liza Minnelli, we've had...
Funny, Liberace was the first one that came to
mind.
In some ways, it was the most outrageous thing to see him up close. Just, you know, with the train, the fur train coming on stage. It's incredible.
If you take all those galas from the last 31 years, it'll be an encyclopedia of who's who in Hollywood and New York City and Broadway. It's really amazing.
Some of those artists also act as ambassadors for the Pops education programs, which allow thousands of New Yorkers of all ages to participate in the music-making experience.
Yeah, we're very proud of our education programs that we have. We do have outreach programs to, say, the Lennox House, where we have senior citizens. We put on concerts for them. We have a great relationship with Ronald McDonald House of New York, where we've created music programs for the kids that are facing horrendous battles every day, and it's great to see how music really brightens their life. Also, we have music education programs out in all 5 boroughs. Schools that may be cutting some of their funding for music ed, they can come to us, and we send in teaching artists, and we set up programs for these students and give them lessons, private lessons. Another thing that I really love, our Kids in the Balcony program, where it's a funded thing to get a certain amount of tickets for each concert, and schools can apply for it, and they come. And these kids get to see a concert at Carnegie Hall, and there's over 1,000 kids every year from all 5 boroughs that come into the city to come to Carnegie Hall and watch New York Pops perform. It's something we're very proud of.
The nonprofit organization's commitment to popular music, as well as its members' commitment to the orchestra, is proof positive that the New York Pops certainly is a different type of orchestra.
The New York Pops is one of the few orchestras that sold out Carnegie Hall on a regular basis. And there is nothing like coming out on the stage and seeing a full house.
We're really about having a great time. People end their work week and they want to come and hear great music performed by a great orchestra in Carnegie Hall. And you know, there's nothing better than that.
Have you ever wondered how all the parts of a piano come together? Well, at Steinway & Sons factory in Long Island City, Andrew Falzone found that the people who actually put the pianos together are just as interesting as the Steinway process itself.
It takes almost 1 full year to make a piano at Steinway & Sons, and by the time it gets to Wally Boot, it's almost ready to leave the factory. If anyone knows when a Steinway is worthy of its name, it's Wally. He's been working here for 52 years.
I was just thinking the other day, I'm like hands-on quality control. Because I'm the last one to touch the piano.
But if you walk around the Long Island City factory, it becomes apparent it's not just Wally who's obsessed with quality control.
I think it's 97% of every solo concert pianist plays on a Steinway, and there's a reason for that.
Bill Hughes heads up the restoration department at Steinway, which means he knows how to build a piano from the inside out. When a customer sent in an 1864 Steinway for a little updating, Bill led a team that made a 1.5-century-old piano sound as good as new. He's been a part of Steinway for just over 40 years.
We gave a tour the other day, and one of the guys on the tour says, "I'm here 5 years." I said, "Yeah, in another 15 we'll consider you full-time." You know, so it's a kind of a joke. If you're not here 20 years and you haven't learned that much from us, you know, okay, you're still an apprentice.
In a factory that prides itself on having more hands than machines, most of the skilled craftsmen have learned their trade through an informal apprenticeship that can last for decades. Most of the workers are not artisans from overseas, but local guys who grew up with Steinway in their backyard. In fact, that's Wally in the Steinway lumber yard at just 2 years old. Even today, it's not uncommon for multiple generations of family members to work here, but unlike the faces that have changed over time, the building process has pretty much stayed the same at Steinway since it started over 160 years ago. Out of all the steps in the piano making process, nothing defies science more than the art of rim bending. It's the process of getting a piece of wood like this hard rock maple to look like those piano rims, bent and contorted beyond anything nature ever imagined.
The first major step, obviously, is the shape of the piano, what we call the bent rim. We are the people that designed that. We patented that process. There are still, I don't think there's another manufacturer of pianos in the world that does it the way we do, whereas we bend this all at one process.
Rim bending is perhaps the most dramatic step when making a Steinway. Before being bent, the wood is dried for 2 years, 1 year air dried, 1 year kiln dried. For the largest Model D concert grand piano, 18 layers of hard rock maple are steadily worked into a patented rim press.
We know how thick that wood needs to be. We use rock maple, which is the hardest wood you can get. So yeah, it's tough to bend. The guys down there, it's literally brute force. They use big wrenches and big equipment to just tighten these things into a big press that gives us this shape.
While the rim is being formed, other piano parts are being prepared in other units. The action department assembles and balances the keys and links each of the 88 with its own hammer, which will eventually strike the strings inside the piano.
When you hear about Steinway piano, we'll mention that there's 12,000 parts inside that piano. Well, almost about half of those parts are in that action alone. That when you hear a piano played, there are literally 57 parts in each note that makes that note ring.
The guts of the piano are prepared in another building which houses a group of workers in the belly department. The soundboard is made of Sitka spruce and is placed inside the case.
We call the belly department or the soundboard of the piano the soul of the piano. And if you're going to look at it that way, then the action is the heart. Heart gives you the beat, the soul gives you, the color and all that other good stuff.
The bridge is glued on top and notches are hand carved so that the pins can be hammered in one by one. Along with a massive iron plate, the pins will anchor the 243 strings that will withstand more than 45,000 pounds of pressure when properly tuned.
We're building in wood parts to thousandths of an inch. This is wood, and it expands and contracts with different humidity and temperatures, and we're still working to within thousandths of an inch to get these little tiny parts. We're dealing with friction tolerances, dimensional tolerances. It's a very complicated piece of equipment.
Along the way, the piano has either been given a coat of ebony lacquer or stained to reveal the natural grain of the wood. And then, just before it heads out the door, it meets up with Wally, who listens to each note for the piano's character.
I go by the personality of the piano. Some pianos are bright, some pianos are mellow.
It surprised us to learn that Wally didn't always play the piano, but learned on the job. With plenty of time to practice during the day, he was able to make the most of his lessons, which lasted only 15 minutes each, once a week.
I can put my feeling into it, my love for pianos.
Did the pianos love you back?
Of course. Every Thursday when I get paid. I would do this for nothing, but don't tell them.
All that hand craftsmanship comes at a price. The smallest concert grand from Steinway starts at $58,000, while the largest Model D concert grand that Wally was working on starts at $149,000. In fact, the most expensive piano ever sold was a Steinway. It was named the Sound of Harmony and was sold to a Chinese art collector for just over $1.6 million. But regardless of the cost, back at the factory, it all comes down to pride.
And anytime they know that a Steinway is going to be somewhere, we get an announcement, hey guys, it's either going to be on The Tonight Show or on American Idol. And you realize that you're developing a work of art that, again, not only a visual work of art, but an audible work of art. And people around the world love that. And I carry that with me everywhere I go.
For Arts in the City, I'm Andrew Falzone.
I'm Donna Hanover. Broadway audiences know Bryce Pinkham from Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson, Ghost the Musical, and more recently as a funny killer in A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. But his between-shows work with kids on the island of Madagascar is also theatrical. Before being cast in A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, Bryce took his love of theater and its possibilities far afield, to Madagascar, off the east coast of Africa.
This is a program that I helped found called Zara Aina, which is a Malagasy expression, which means share life. We tend to think of, the films, Madagascar, the cartoons.
Fun, funny. Fun,
funny. There's lots of animals there. There's a rainforest. There are species of birds and spiders and lemurs that don't exist anywhere else. So my friend went looking for those. Lucas Rooney is his name. And he found them, but he also found that the country's in crisis, particularly its education. About half of the students in Madagascar drop out of school before they finish what would be equivalent to middle school. He said, I have a great idea. We should bring American actors to Madagascar. We saw an opening here for using theater, using performance as a way to empower children, to experience what it's like to come up with an idea on your own, to have a plan, to follow through on that plan, and then to present that performance and be rewarded by the sound of people clapping and cheering for you.
So Bryce and Lucas gathered some volunteer American actors and spent a month in Madagascar with 14 children, helping them create a show based on a Malagasy folk tale. Some rehearsals required translators.
Can you feel your heart going tum 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 tum? A little bit? Yeah? Yeah, remember that.
Some rehearsing didn't require translators. There was assistance from a local social welfare program and the kids' parents and teachers who were happy to see them doing something so exciting. The American actors had supporting roles in the show, so they were on stage in case the kids needed help, but the kids played the leads.
Some days they're like super excited and you can rehearse something till it's really fun. And then you go back to look at it the next day and it's like they don't remember it. I think we need an audience. I think once we have an audience, we'll be like in better shape.
We managed to pull through, and you know, like any show, there's frustrations that come along, but the next thing you know, you have an audience and it goes great again.
And will all of this help the kids become better students?
I know it worked for me. When I was a kid in first grade, my parents were called into a parent-teacher conference, and the first grade teacher said, you might want to find Bryce an outlet for his reckless creativity, I believe was the words she used. And so they got me into some acting classes, nothing too serious, but just as a sort of an outlet. And from then on in, I was able to focus in school because I had ways to be creative and let my imagination run wild outside of school.
He's come a long way since then. By the way, Bryce thinks the Madagascar experience actually helped him get the part in A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder.
I had the perspective to come in to the audition thinking, wow, I'm so lucky to even be here, to be able to follow my dream of being an actor. I had been given the opportunity to realize that it's all not that serious. You know, it's the problems we think we face in New York and in the theater world are really not that serious compared to what a lot of other people are dealing with in their lives. Our children who come from underprivileged backgrounds were given the opportunity to become gift givers and to feel like they had something to give, not only in the tangible means of success, papers and pen, and school supplies, but also in their performance. It was a really amazing moment.
When all is said and done, the young actors in Madagascar are just like kids anywhere. When they get a chance to show off their skills, you get a big smile. I'm Donna Hanover for Arts in the City.
New York City has always been a great place to hear music of any kind, whether it's on stage or in an arena or in small lounges across the city. But have you ever considered going underground for a live concert? I did, and hit the subways for a musical journey. The Andean group Raíces is one of more than 350 performers taking part in the MTA's Music Under New York program in the city's subways and rail stations, delighting commuters since 1985.
We have a whole range of musicians that play different types of music and cultural acts, so it's really exciting for everyone to pass through the subway and come across these different acts.
I think it's amazing, you know, definitely having the cultural experience and not having to actually go to a museum.
I think it's a wonderful thing. I love it personally. It's very good that they're broadening other people's horizons, like making us more knowledgeable of their music.
The artists play more than 7,500 performances in approximately 30 locations throughout the transit system.
They're every day playing for the public. The program wouldn't run without the music, and it's really a gift that they're giving to commuters.
You get people dancing in the subway, you know you've done it, but it's always a lot of fun because it's that interaction which makes it even better when you play. It gives you something to watch and something to react to.
It's a great opportunity, thanks to Munich Music on the New York, for support to us to introduce our culture, our music.
For nearly 80 years, there was a performance ban in New York City subways, starting with the inaugural line in 1904 until 1985, when the MTA lifted the ban.
Well, they're an audience on a conveyor belt, they're moving. So that's the thing. New Yorkers hear more great art or see more great art than a lot of people in the world get a chance to. It's a big art center. So New Yorkers really listen and they really know. So to have them stop and listen is a wonderful sort of critique, positive critique.
I love it. I always look forward to seeing performances in the subway, even on the train. Yeah, I mean, I grew up, I'm a New Yorker, so that's what we do.
Although you may see several musicians during your daily commute in the subways, only a select few actually participate in the MTA's program.
First of all, they audition. It's a competitive process, and they are selected. We provide them with vacations in the subway, form to the 5.4 million customers that pass through the subway daily. And that's a really large pool of audience members, and they get immediate feedback from the public, and opportunities also may come their way.
At times they've acted as an agent, and people have called them, and we've got hired for things. And just it's a nice way to organize people who play in public places.
Remember, we are in the capital of the world. We have a lot of people around us. Listen to music and understand who we are.
That's our show for today. For more information on any of our stories, log on to our website at CUNY.tv. I'm Tinabeth Pina for Arts in the City.